Hey guys, what's up? It's Jess. Welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. It is nighttime. It's actually a little bit late, and I have a box here that I want to open with y'all. I actually opened it and I peeked in and thought, oh dang, this is gonna be good. So I'm gonna grab my camera. I'm actually gonna come down here so you guys can see properly. So this is actually from MIGardener. It says we love Roots and Refuge on the top, which made me happy. I actually ordered some seeds the other day. Luke and Cindy have become friends of mine, which is a really sweet thing for me. I share this a lot, but my YouTube channel kind of really started to grow in a fast way almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy for that to even be a true statement that it's been that long. But before that, I was very much like many of you. I was a home gardener, learning things on YouTube, reading books, and just how many of you are watching this channel right now. I was in that exact position, and I love getting to share my delight and just I think the absolute coolness of my life, and this is one of those things. So Luke and Cindy have become precious friends of mine as like brothers and sisters, and I just am so thankful for them, and I just love cheering them on and everything that they're doing. And so I ordered some seeds the other day, and when I opened this box I realized that they had put some extra things in and loved on me, so I wanted to share it. Alright, let's get in here. There's a lot of seeds in this box, actually, a whole lot. So we got a note here. Jess. So it says, I'm rooting for you, and this is a note from Cindy. I actually talked to them on the phone for a while the other day about some things that are going on here in our home front and about what's going on theirs, and so that was just really precious. And it says, here's a cool little sticker that says, all my friends eat sunshine, and it's like sunflowers and berries. That is so pretty. I'm gonna stick that somewhere good. Also, can we just talk about the fact that I'm doing this unboxing and you're watching it? A lot of people have told me that they watch their children watch YouTube videos of like opening toys and stuff like that, and I just want to take a moment to realize that you're doing the grown-up version of that, just so we're like on the same page about what's actually going on right now. Okay, so this is really cool. This is the first thing that I noticed. I actually haven't seen anything else in here. When I saw this is when I realized that there was more stuff in here other than what I opened. So this is their, I saw they shared this on Facebook. They're doing like a Valentine's seed gram thing where you can like go and buy a little set like this and send it to somebody, and it has a handwritten note, some candy, and a little journal and some seeds. So this is really cute. May the garden of our love be ever bearing. So like you can go send this to somebody from the website, which I thought is super sweet, and I'm actually going to try to keep from tearing up this sticker because I may totally re-gift this. How sweet watermelons, red bachelor button, purple beauty sweet pepper. I might not re-gift it. I might just keep that right for myself. Sugar pie pumpkins, papaver poppy mix. I really want to grow poppies this year. I've never grown them before, but I think it's like time now. Have you grown poppies? Anyone want to give me some advice on that? Velvet Queen sunflower and sweetie tomatoes. So that's really cool. All those seeds in this little Valentine's gift. Let's see. Oh, here's a little can koozie. What do you call these? Koozie? That's what we call them. I wet my plants. That's cute. Super cute. Here are some seed saving envelopes. That's really cool. That'll come in handy. I actually have my little dresser over here. Let's see if I can show it to you. Right there. Right there is my seed saving dresser, and that has all my seeds in it. And I also keep like envelopes and baggies and stuff so that when people come over and visit, they can go through seeds and take some with them. Oh goodness, this is a lot of seeds. Just in time for me to start seeds next week. And there's some more here. Here's Luke's book, The Autopilot Garden. I'm so pumped. This is really awesome. I actually have a copy of this, but now I'll have one to share. My copy is loaned out right now, so I can just tell that person to keep it, and I can keep this one for myself, so that's really cool. Oh snap! It's a puzzle! Oh my goodness, this is so cool! Y'all like how excited I get over vegetable puzzles? Okay, so this is crazy. This is actually a New York puzzle company puzzle made in the US, and this is like my favorite kind of puzzle. Jeremiah and I love to do puzzles, and so this is really cool. 1,000 pieces. This is gonna take a minute, but I'm so pumped about this. That's so cool. And here we have a mug, which is actually the same art that's on the puzzle. Has vegetables. Oh, check that out. That's a nice good sized mug. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty? That's beautiful. Goodness, thank you guys so much. Now let's look at the seeds, because let's be real, if you clicked on a video about an MIGardener order, that's really what you were clicking for. Oh goodness. Okay, so there's some order here. They're kind of like grouped. We may not make a mess of them. All right, so I ordered a bunch of seeds, and I have a bunch of seeds. So obviously I'm not gonna grow all of these things, at least not right now. A lot of these I will share. A lot of my seeds I take every year and do a donation to our local seed bank at our library. It's like a seed library where people can come get them. So if you live in the area, Conway has a great seed library at the library there. I was just looking through the things that interested me, and I'm going to tell you some of the things that really stood out to me that I was thinking I would grow this year. Maybe. It just kind of depends on when we get started how much room we end up with. And of course we're putting in new in-ground gardens, which is really going to expand our space, and I don't really have a feel yet for what that's going to be like. Whenever I do garden planning, I like to have a general plan, but I usually don't know what's actually going to go into the garden until I put it in the garden. I always underestimate how many plants and seeds I'm going to need. Always. I am always, when it comes down to filling the garden, having to go back in and find more things that I want to plant and putting more plants in than I thought I was going to be able to. And I think that just comes from the fact that I do have a lot of space, and I plan on the conservative side, because to me it's better to have spaces to fill than being disappointed that I don't have enough space for what I planned on planting. But yeah, so I have a lot of things that might not make it in. But I noticed I really liked some of these different melons. And of course I love the Kajari melon, that's one of my favorites. But as far as melons on the trellises, I just wanted to try some new things. I don't have a lot of melons that I'm like totally married to. I'll always grow the Kajari melon, and I've tried a lot of other ones and I like them, but they haven't like blown my mind or anything. And so these really interested me, and so I will likely actually grow all of these melons. The Golden Midget Watermelon, that seemed like a great melon to trellis. The Prescott Fond Blanc melon, which this one is supposed to get, so this one is a decent sized melon. I don't know exactly how big it's supposed to get, but it does look more like a squash. And so this one might need to be one that needs to be grown in the ground. I'm not really sure. You can grow pretty good sized melons on cattle panel trellises, as long as you have support for them. Now, if you lived in an area that was like tremendously windy, like I know some of you live in like prairie areas and stuff where there's a lot of high wind, and I could see potentially that maybe being a problem if you have a ton of weight on the trellis, but we get pretty high winds here. I mean, we live in an area that gets like tornado type storms, and being on a ridge, we don't usually deal with that directly at our house, but we've had storms with very high winds while our trellises were loaded down, and I've never had a trellis bend or like break, and I only have one T-post on each side. So if you lived in a high wind area, you could probably just reinforce it a little bit more. And I've seen people growing really big melons on the trellis, but they just have to give them support. So here is this Kazakh melon. I thought this was really neat because it is one that's small and growing on trellises, that makes it a little simpler. But it said it had a really high sugar content, and it was like crunchy with like a similar texture to honeydew. And so I thought this would be a good one to try. I love sweet melons, and for me, that's one of the things that really helps with groceries for us, because my kids will snack on melons every single day of the summer. They will eat all of the ones that I grow, and I grow a lot. So I continue to grow a lot because they don't go to waste. And I also got this Delice de la Table melon, another really beautiful melon that looks very squashy. Says it's really juicy and sweet, and that they reach 1 to 2 pounds. So I felt like that it would be a good one to grow on a trellis. Okay, so I also grabbed some of this Cucuzzi squash. Now I've done the Rampicante on a trellis before, but again, this was something that I specifically chose for my garden because I have 13 arch trellises, and I like to plan those intentionally. Now, a lot of you guys are planting your gardens right now, and I'll just tell you what I do personally. The first year that I did arch trellises, I did dried beans and green beans on them. And if you have a small family, or if you're just like a couple and you're not feeding just a lot of mouths, green beans on an arch trellis works out pretty well. Dried beans, I don't find that the arch trellis really gives you enough space to plant enough plants to make that worth it. You know, for us, dinners are feeding, you know, 7 people usually on a minimum, and then we have guests over a lot. And so I like to plant my beans in very long rows so I can get enough of a harvest at once to really make it worth it. I really love to use my arch trellises for hanging squash like this, like good squashes that vine, melons, of course, cucumbers. I really love growing cucumbers on the trellises. They grow up really high and it keeps them nice and straight. And though you can grow things like beans, and if you're growing in a small space and you're not trying to grow just like a ton of green beans, like go for it. But do understand that in that space, like if you're trying to produce volume, you are going to really maximize that space growing something like squash or melons or cucumbers versus growing beans in that space. So I got some more squashes, summer squashes here, some like scallop squash as well as gray zucchini squash. These are 2 just really basic Old Faithfuls, and I just realized that I was out of seeds for them. I gave away a lot of seeds, and it came down to planting my garden, and I realized that some of the things that are like absolute staples for me, I didn't have seeds for them anymore. And as far as like saving seeds, I absolutely save seeds. Somebody asked me the other day, like, why are you still buying these kinds of seeds? And a lot of seeds I don't buy, like a lot of things I still have, but last year I didn't save a ton of seeds because I had so many saved from the year before. But then between then and now, I've given so many away that I ran out of some of my favorite things. So I got a lot of tomato seeds that some of these I actually did already have. And this was truly me being a little excessive. Good night, they just keep going. Wow, yeah. I think I might have gotten almost every tomato that MIGardener sells. They just keep going. Okay, here we go. Didn't really mean to do that. So this is the unboxing thing where you're seeing me get all of these. So I'm gonna go through these and talk about some of the ones that I've grown before and some of the ones that I've not grown that I'm looking forward to. So pineapple is definitely like an Old Faithful for me. It's interesting because when you get seeds from different places, sometimes even with heirlooms, it's like you get kind of slightly different strains, and it can be that way just within the same seed seller, because obviously they're having different people grow those seeds out for them and sourcing them from different places. And basically, like, you know, if a person saves a seed that just has a slight variation to it, you could end up with multiple people having the same seed or plant that they're calling the same thing, but they're just slightly different. Obviously, if they're very different, they a lot of times would get developed into a new variety. And sometimes that's like noted. Like for instance, sometimes you'll see Brandywines. That's one that's just been around for a really long time, and you'll see that some of them are like called Sudeth strain or whatever. They like denote what strain it is. But I've noticed with some different plants, like for instance the pineapple tomato, which is a really beautiful large slicer that is really streaky, I've noticed that sometimes from different places it's a little more yellow or it's a little more orange, and it's still the same and you're still going to get like a similar flavor, but that's just something to note. If you've ever, I know that I've grown Mr. Stripey from a couple of different places and it's been a little different from each place. Mostly the same, little different. Okay, so here's one that I was pretty pumped about. The Gobstopper tomato. Look at this. So it is an indeterminate. It's like a yellow with green flesh, and it's supposed to be sweet and fruity and split resistant. That I thought was kind of cool. I love to grow a really beautiful variety of cherry tomatoes. Like every summer I put this big bowl on my kitchen counter and just fill it with a mix of cherry tomatoes, and I actually don't have a greenish cherry tomato until now. So I'm gonna, this one I know for certain that one is gonna end up being grown. The orange Rossellini, I actually started this last year, but I was late getting it started, and it's hard to start tomatoes late here because it gets so hot. And so if they're kind of like coming into their prime of production when it's 105 degrees outside, they'll start dropping their blossoms. You won't get a lot. And that's kind of what happened with the orange Rossellini. It was not the variety's fault. It was definitely my fault for starting it so much later than everything else. So I'm excited to give the orange Rossellini like a proper chance this year. I remember watching Luke do a video about the orange Rossellini before I had much of a YouTube channel. And he was so excited about this tomato. And I remember feeling very very justified in my excitement over heirlooms when I was watching this guy like super pumped about a tomato, because that's how I felt about things for a long time, guys. I used to like sell plant starts in the spring, and I would go to the farmer's market to sell them, and people would come up and they would ask me, and I would just start to like explode on them about varieties and different flavors and different growing habits and like all this different stuff, and you would just see them like their eyes get like big as saucers, and they would just not, and you would just see them check out, but I just couldn't stop talking about it. I would just keep talking, and Jeremiah would put his hand on my shoulder and be like, honey, like just tell them which one to buy. Just, they like, you're losing them here. And he was like so gracious with me, because I would just completely miss the social cues that they were not nearly as excited about it as I was. And so when I watched Luke get so excited about that, I was like, oh, my people, they're out there. So the Mortgage Lifter tomato is kind of an old faithful. I've grown this one multiple times, and that's a really good one. The Bonnie Best, I believe this is one that Jen Stivers talks about. I can't remember if this is it, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that she liked so much, and I saw that and I thought that, and that's why I bought it, because I was thinking that that was one of Jen's recommendations. San Marzano, I'm actually going to give another try. I grew San Marzano the first time I had much of a big garden, and I liked it okay, but I think I was like being wooed by all the different colors of tomatoes, so I don't think I really gave this a proper, I don't think I really gave it a try. I don't think I gave it as enough credit, because my eyes were being opened that not all tomatoes were red. And so I'm gonna go back to the San Marzano and we're gonna try it again. Here is the Floridad, I think is what it's called. Floridade, I don't know how you pronounce that. But this was one that actually, the day that I ordered these seeds, earlier that day, my friend Coral actually sent me a picture of a book she was reading, and it had a chart for like tomatoes for really hot weather, and she had asked me, and like, have you grown these or something, and I had seen this one on the list, and I was like, well, actually I've never even seen that one before. That's interesting. And then that evening I was looking through MIGardener seeds and saw this variety. And I thought, okay, I definitely got to try that, since I just learned about it today, and here it is. But it's one, even on his pack, it says that it does very well in very hot temperatures. And it seems to be just like a really basic kind of, it says great tomato for enjoying pasta sauces, pastes, and sauteing. So kind of like a basic cooking tomato, probably good for canning. It looks very uniformly globe. And so that was one that I thought would be a good one to try, and maybe it will last into our heat. Here's the Abe Lincoln. I have a local friend that really loves to grow these, and so I'm going to start these. And at Baker Creek's Expo 2 years ago, one of the biggest tomatoes I think I've ever seen in my life was an Abe Lincoln. And so that was one. I don't remember if I've grown this one. If I have, I don't remember it. So I don't think that I have. Pink Oxheart, that's like an old trusty. It's very similar to some of the Amish pastes that I've grown. It's just really big and meaty. I also grow one called the Italian Heirloom that's kind of similar. This one was interesting, the persimmon tomato. That's one I've never grown before, and the color of it is a very rich orange, and I really love orange and yellow tomatoes, so I thought that one looked pretty interesting. I don't think it's as massive as like the Dr. Witchy's and Kellogg's Breakfast. It says it's rust orange, which made me wonder if it was going to be similar to the Thorburns Terracotta that I really liked. I got some triple crops seeds. I have seeds for this tomato that I saved from my own, but I wanted to go ahead and do these also and see if there was any difference in the seeds that I had. Got the orange Oxheart as well. Similar again to the pink Oxheart big paste tomato. Boxcar Willie. This is one that actually one of you guys suggested that I try. That you said it was a good tomato for growing in hot and humid areas. So alpaca, this is something I've not grown. I started these last year and I accidentally took all of them to the shindig and sold them all. So I didn't end up growing any of them in my garden last year. And the alpaca is one that Luke suggested a while ago to be like a must grow variety. So a rose tomato, this is one I just hadn't heard of. And so anytime I come across a tomato that I've never like seen or heard of, I'm kind of like, get in my garden. Let's see. Oh, the Marion, which is was first grown in Marion, South Carolina. It was originally intended to be a processing tomato. And so if you'll notice, I'm actually growing more medium size globe, like intended for processing tomatoes, than I ever have before. The reason for that being that I'm actually going to grow more tomato plants this year than I have before, and I am intentionally growing like a row of processing tomatoes. Now in the past I've largely just grown big heirlooms. The reason for that being that they're pretty multi-purpose and you can also use them for processing, but I really want to put up enough tomatoes to get us all the way through the winter. I'm actually about to open, let's see, I think I have 2 jars of tomatoes left. So I did not save nearly enough for this year. And so trying to up my game on that. Again, here's the Federle, I don't even know. And this is a paste, kind of similar to the alpaca. If I come down to it and I can't decide, I may try some of both of those, or I may just stick with the alpaca, I don't know. That one was one I bought just kind of like to have the option. It's really easy to just keep adding seeds to the cart whenever they're only 99 cents. Trophy tomato. This is supposed to be really big. So I'm gonna give that one a shot. The Gilberty, again, you're seeing kind of a trend. This is interesting me this year. That's another long, thin paste. This is interesting. This is a silvery fir tree. This is another one that Luke had recommended to me a couple years ago whenever I met him at HOA. And it's a really interesting foliage, the silvery fir tree. It has like, it's got leaves unlike any other tomato I've ever seen. And so this is probably another that I started a lot of last year, and I tried to grow them in containers, but I didn't do very well with that because they were all the way over on the other side of the garden, and I didn't give them nearly the love and attention that I gave my other tomatoes. So here's the Wapsipinicon peach. This is one I really liked last year, gave all the seeds away. Really slightly fuzzy skin and super sweet, just really yummy. And actually got some Arkansas Traveler tomato seeds. Of course, that was developed in Arkansas. And I've always grown like a plant, but last year it really held up to the heat and the humidity better than some of the other ones. And I thought I really should give this more space in my garden again, especially if I'm trying to grow to process. Even though I'm growing a lot of those specifically processing tomatoes, I will still process my slicers the same. You know, a lot of those I go ahead and can and make sauce and all of that stuff. A lot of big slicers are very low seeds and very meaty, and so they process okay also. All right, let's see what else we have here. The Pickled basil. Check that out. Now this is really, really pretty, and it is a tiny, tiny basil variety that's only like a 4 to 6 inch plant. And so I am actually gonna start a bunch of these and have them in pots. This is something I'm gonna start soon. I would really love to be able to sell these at the shindig. Here's hoping that I can get these going well. But yeah, they're great for like a window herb garden. So if you're gardening in containers and you're trying to grow herbs in your house, 4 to 6 inch tiny plant. Long Island cheese pumpkin, that's kind of a classic good one. Genovese basil, this is also a classic. I sow way more basil in my garden than I can use. Even right now, upstairs, over my window that overlooks my garden, I have a whole bunch of bunches of basil hanging up drying. I already jarred up a bunch of basil and gave it for gifts for Christmas. I've already jarred up a bunch of basil that we're using, and I've still just got like tons drying up above the piano. But basil is a great companion plant. It's really great to plant near things. When it flowers, it brings in the pollinators. The pollinators really love it. And there are a lot of things that are said about basil. They say that if you plant it near your tomatoes, it makes them taste better, and I don't really know if that's true. A lot of companion planting information, I don't really know if it's true, but I do know that whenever you take basil and you put it with tomatoes and mozzarella cheese, it's definitely a very tasty thing that happens there. So I got a couple other basils, dark opal and Italian large leaf. I just grow, I mean, I'll probably have like 8 kinds of basil growing in my garden all over, way more plants than I can use. I actually got some edible chrysanthemum. This is one that's new to me. I've never grown this before. The flower you can add to salads or stir fries. Mildly bitter flavor of the greens is often used in Asian cuisine. So I love a good companion plant. Oh, here's another tomato, the Sheboygan. I've not grown that before. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. This is called cilantro, and this I actually learned about from a viewer, multiple viewers, who commented that since it's so difficult to grow cilantro in the heat of Arkansas, to try cilantro, which is often grown in Mexico, which is obviously hotter than here, and that it is has kind of a stronger cilantro flavor. It's a cousin of cilantro. And so when I saw these seeds, I jumped right on those and was really pumped. Another was I don't know how to say this, epazote. Wow, it says consumption should be avoided by pregnant women. That's interesting. So this is, it says it has hints of oregano, anise, and mint, and it is native to Central and South America. This is one that I've read is a really good thing to plant in a hot garden. And so I thought we'd give that a shot. It's supposed to be really good for flavoring like beans and kind of beans and rice type meals. Okay, so this was one of the reasons that I went to the MIGardener site, because I saw this on social media and was like, yes. Feathered frills kale. I've never in my life seen this. Is that not absolutely interesting? So it's like purple, very serrated, perfect kale for people who don't like kale. Reminiscent of Mizuna mustard, but still nutrient dense like any other kale. So I thought that was really, really fascinating. You know, I love unusual things, and that's just really beautiful. I've got several herbs here. Marshmallow was one that I wanted to grow possibly in our perennial garden area. Wow, I just went really wild on the basil. I really liked this Mammoth Basil. I grew this last year. It's really big. It has like huge leaves. I got a few packs of Tulsi holy basil. This is the holy basil that I have had in my garden. I know there are a few different strands of holy basil, and I've had some people tell me that they've planted it before and it wasn't super fragrant, and they had seen me continually talk about how fragrant my basil was in my garden. But it's actually from these seeds right here from MIGardener that I've been planting that basil for the last few years. And I actually got 3 packages of these because I wanted to start them to sell at the shindig. I wanted to be able to sell the same holy basil that I have in my garden. I had some seeds saved from mine, but I can't find them. I probably gave them away. Got a couple more melons here. Again, these were varieties that I thought would be good on a trellis. The Minnesota Midget Cantaloupe and the Honey Rock Melon. They're both listed as container friendly, which I thought was kind of interesting. A couple other things that I got were some Shogun turnips. Now these are cooler weather. I'm gonna go ahead and start these now because I haven't started any turnips yet. I started beets, and I'm gonna direct sow radishes, and I'm just gonna direct sow these turnips. We got our row covers, we just gotta put them in. And I got leeks and parsnips. I think the leeks I can go ahead and start now, and those I'm gonna direct sow. The parsnips may be for growing later and into the fall. I'm pretty sure that's how those work. These blue shelling peas, this is a variety that I did not have and that I'd never grown before. I'll be direct sowing these here very soon. I have multiple other peas that I really like, but the thing that I liked about this one was that they're really long pods, and there's like 4 to 8 peas per pod, and the pods can apparently grow 4 to 7 inches long. So those will get direct sown next week, probably under cover. Peas can handle it pretty cold, but if it gets really cold, it'll kill them. I did get a couple of okras. The long pod Perkins is one I had not grown before, and I love okra. And then the Hill Country Red. I have a couple others that I really like. The Star of David, which is another squatty one, and Old Alabama, which is another squatty one. I really like those. But the Hill Country is one of my absolute favorites. I do save okra seeds, and they are often cross-pollinated because I plant so many varieties all together. But I've got some really interesting ones out of that. Now you'll notice I don't have a ton of cold weather stuff. I have a little bit, not a whole lot. I did get one more pea, Golden Sweet, which is a snap pea, but it's yellow. I didn't have a yellow one. I didn't get just a whole lot of cold weather stuff though, just because I've already started a whole lot of that. And what I was thinking in getting a lot of these was the seed starting that I'm about to do this next week. I did get several peppers. Some of these I have grown before. I'm not growing anything super hot, medium hot. I've never grown anything super hot, like ghost peppers or anything like that. But I actually don't even think I'm gonna grow anything. I won't grow anything hotter than a habanero. So I got the Corno de Toro. Both of these are like roasting sweet peppers. Shishito, this is like a really great pepper to blacken and like serve with some sauce. I've cooked these I've grown them multiple times and cooked them, and they're really good. Jimmy Nardello, that's a really great pepper. That's kind of like an old trusty for me. I did get this Keystone resistant giant pepper, and it's supposed to produce just like a whole lot, and it is an heirloom variety, so I just wanted to give that one a shot. I'd not grown that one. The Golden California Wonder, I like California Wonder. It's like an old trusty. And I got Chocolate Beauty. The first year that I grew peppers well, and I grew a bunch of them, I grew Chocolate Beauty, and I had a ton of them, and it was really good. And since I've just not done well at peppers since then, I don't know, I just wanted to bring Chocolate Beauty back in the garden. Maybe I'll get a bunch of peppers again. And just some plain jalapenos. That's the main pepper that I grow. Let's see, Birdhouse Gourds. I would like to put these along one of our fences. When I was growing up, my dad had a good friend that gardened, and he grew birdhouse gourds all the way down the fence, and then he would dry them out and actually make birdhouses out of them. And I've always thought that was really neat, and so I have kind of a notion to want to do that. The Rosa Bianca eggplant. This is one that I have done before, and I have a couple other eggplants. I will, when I get down to like actually starting seeds, I'll make sure to show you guys what all I'm starting. I have a whole stack of peppers that I'm doing as well as these, and I'll show you guys all of that. Cucumbers. Obviously probably not gonna grow all of these. I don't know, I might. The Wisconsin SMR cucumber, I've not ever grown this one. It's a small vining pattern and it doesn't take up just a ton of space. And so my thought with this was that I would probably grow some on my arch trellises. But one of the things that we've also done is taken 2/3 of a trellis and kind of make a TP with it. And I was thinking that this might be a good one to grow in that kind of setup because it's supposed to be like a smaller thing. And I just thought that that might be another way to configure something in the garden and free up the arch trellises to do something else with. The Bet Alpha cucumber, this is supposed to be a really good cucumber. I've actually heard multiple people talking about this one and wanted to put it in the garden. It's supposed to be really sweet. It's a Middle Eastern variety grown and cultivated in Israel, and it's just, I've heard good things. So that one I'm definitely going to grow this year. National Pickling, that's just like an old standby. National Pickling and Boston Pickling, those are both really similar. And I like to grow a lot of pickling cucumbers because I make a lot of pickles. The Mexican Sour Gherkin, I have an idea that I would like to start some of these to sell at the Shindig. I don't know if that will work out. They take a long time to get started. So we'll just see what state they're in when it comes down to that. The Poon Akira cucumber, this is one that came highly recommended last year. A friend of mine, Jill, I'm pretty sure she grew one of these brown skin ones. Yeah, it was Poon Akira. And it's an Indian cucumber. And whenever I went and photographed her birth, her husband had cut up a whole bunch of these just for like snacks for the midwife and the doula and me. And I ate like a bunch of cucumbers that night. And they were delicious. And so I was like, I'm growing this next year. The Little Potato, I thought that one was kind of interesting. And I thought my kids might like to grow this. They love to snack on cucumbers in the garden. And this one's just kind of a small, fun one. Oh, I've got one lone dry bean. I have a lot of bean seeds already. And like I said, I don't really grow these on my arch trellises because I feel like you have to grow so much to make it really worth it. But this is one that's supposed to be really great for baking and soups. And I thought they're so beautiful. Actually, I think we should open this package and look at them. One of the few things that you can actually open and really admire in seed form. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. Check that out. Aren't those so pretty? These are called the Calypso beans, and they're also known as the orca bean, obviously, because they have the look of an orca whale. I just think that's so beautiful. My plan for dried beans this year, I want to try a little bit of Three Sisters gardening, and there's some beans involved in that, but my other thought was to do some rows in my in-ground gardens and grow some beans in that. So I just saw those and thought they were really pretty, and I did have a lot of bean seeds that I've saved and that I've kept over the years, and so I didn't get just a whole lot. I got this Fin de Bagnol. I'm all over the place, guys, I'm sorry. French heirloom. A couple years ago, I grew a pack of French heirloom beans from, I think I got them in a swap, and I could not remember the name. It wasn't in English. And since then, I have tried to grow every French bean I can find to find that one, because that one was so good. And I usually remember what I plant. Like, I'm usually really, really good about remembering what I plant. And for some reason, I cannot remember that one, and I cannot find it mentioned in any video. So maybe this will be the winner. It looks like this. It was long, thin beans. It's stringless. It sounds like this could be it, but we'll just have to see. I'm gonna grow those and see if that's it. So yeah, I guess that wraps it up. I hope this was at least as a fraction as fun for you as it was for me, because this is definitely fun for me. When I talked to Luke this week, I actually set up a coupon code for my viewers that you can go through. You can go through and use the code Jess10 and get 10% off of any MIGardener order that you place. So that's really, really awesome. And that helps support my channel. It gives you 10% off, which I really love being able to share that with you. But yeah, definitely check out MIGardener. And I am so pumped to get started with getting these seeds started next week. Actually, this weekend we're supposed to have pretty nice weather. And so I've got all those row covers that just came in the mail today. And I'm thinking we may clean the greenhouses out and try to knock some stuff out in the garden so that I can get these seeds in some soil. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Like, I could hardly stand it. Can you believe it? It's time again. We're getting there. It's time. And before we know it, we'll be walking through the garden and admiring these things growing, picking them and eating them. It's gonna be so amazing. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. God bless you. Until next time.